Are doing well. So I'm going to show you technically 3 ways to make a GIF in Photoshop. And then we will also make a small animation in Adobe Animate 2 as well. So you'll learn 4 different ways. Here though, we're going to use Photoshop. We're going to do both hand-drawn, using photo stills, and also using video. But I want to start here with just doing a hand-drawn one. And really fun and kind of simple to do, especially once you kind of get the hang of it. But there's a few steps to kind of go through here. So this is just an example I made earlier, just really simple. Whenever you save a GIF to your laptop or wherever, when you go to open it up, you're going to always open it into an online platform like Firefox or Safari. Here, I'll just open it up in Safari, and it should play itself. And so we just have this kind of ball bouncing around. You, of course, can do anything you want, but for this purpose of this tutorial, I'll just kind of do essentially kind of a bouncing ball. So let me close this, and then I'm going to go ahead and open up Photoshop. Let's see, I'll close this out real quick. And then I'm going to say, okay, so I'm going to create a whole new document, so new. Now, my suggestion is, and I'll give you some guidelines when I write up the project description, is to do a square format. And here I'm going to do a 6x6 inch. I'm starting at 300, but in the long run, it doesn't really matter because everything needs to get crunched in order for a GIF to loop on the net, on the web. So I'll keep it there though, but that'll change once we go to save it. I'm going to label it real quick. Test GIF, leave all this is fine, and create. And then so I've got my white background here and my canvas to work on. I'm going to unlock my layer so that I can just immediately work on it. I'm going to do a gradient for my background. And so throughout this, I'm just going to keep one background for the entire piece to kind of keep that consistency, whereas an object will kind of move throughout the background. So this is going to be my base background. Now for your guidelines, you'll need to do 8 layers minimum and then 3 colors minimum. Any colors, any way you want to kind of use that. But 8 layers and 3 colors, it's your kind of magic numbers. So what I'm going to automatically do is I'm going to start to duplicate my layers so that I have 8 just to go. So let me just kind of multiply here, duplicate some layers. Okay, and now I've got 8. Once I've got my 8 layers, I'm just going to turn off my top 7 so that I can't see them. Of course, you would never know because they're all the same, but I don't want them to impede what I can see when I'm working. So I'm going to click on my first layer, and then now I can work on it. So I'm going to go over here and choose another color, a little bit lighter, maybe more of a grayish. So you guys, again, can use any colors you want when you're doing this. And again, I'm going to do a just a kind of basic ball, just kind of moving throughout and animate that. So I'm going to use my paintbrush. I'm going to double check all my settings up here. So I'm 100% opacity, 100% flow, normal. I've just got a regular round hard edge brush. And I'm at 38 pixels. So that's fine. Nothing big here. So I'm going to have like this ball kind of come into the frame and then kind of almost bounce through. So on my first frame, frame 0 down there at the bottom, I'm just going to have this ball kind of up here, right there. And I'm hand drawing using just my TacPad on my Mac laptop. So I know some of you have stylus and can work directly on your iPad. If you can, I encourage you to go ahead and do that with this project. It'll make life a lot easier. I'm at this point kind of easy and comfortable with working and just drawing on my TACpad, although it's not perfect. I do have like a bamboo Wacom tablet, but I don't always like to use that. I can find it kind of awkward. Okay, so anyways, I've drawn on my first layer here, the kind of ball entering the frame. I'm going to turn on that next layer above it, click on it to know that it's my working layer. Obviously, I can't see what's underneath, so I'm going to drop the opacity down. That means I can see through that layer to see the ball. So that way I can know its kind of position, and I can just draw another ball, just like that. And I'm going to repeat that process over and over again here. So, and each time I'm lowering that opacity so I can see the position of what's underneath. Now notice too that I'm making this ball almost come forward and become a little bit larger. So I'm playing with the size of it and almost kind of giving it a depth of field. Or the idea that it's in the back and kind of launching itself forward. Again, so I'm turning on these layers, make sure I'm choosing them, dropping the opacity down, and it's non-specific. Let's make this ball look like it's kind of like hitting. I'm going to move back up, click on this layer, again drop the opacity down, and then now the ball is coming back up. We just got a couple more frames here. And our last and final frame. And this is why I say 8 at a bare minimum for the project, because really, ideally, you want to do it, probably even 12, because it's just not enough to really complete a full sequence. I might like to add another 3 or 4 so it just completely escapes, or even kind of comes back in and the ball could come across the top. Okay, but I want to be able to make sure I show you all the steps here. So we've got 8 frames of this ball kind of moving across, bouncing and moving out. So what I want to do now is go back through all of my layers, and I want to make sure that the opacity is all the way up. So I'm just going to go back down and make sure the opacity is at 100% for all of them. Okay, and so I've done all my layers. Okay, so this is where things get not necessarily complicated, but I have some steps we kind of need to go through. So the first thing is I want you guys, once you're done with your 8 layers and doing a little animation, go up to the top and drop into the window menu and drop all the way down and click on timeline. And then you'll get this. Hopefully it comes up. This box area down here. And we'll use this always when we're making GIFs in Photoshop, this kind of timeline. And we'll use it in different ways. But you'll see create frame video timeline or create frame animation. And that's what we want. So make sure it says create frame animation. Okay. And then the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go over here. Oh, sorry, I forgot. This is where I get confused. I forget sometimes. Okay, once we hit have create frame animation, go ahead and click on that. Just click it. You'll see 1 frame over here. So come back over here to our little hamburger, open it up, and then go here where it says make frames from layers, and that's what's going to add all of your work there. And then you should see it all show up here, all across. So I'll go back for a second. Let me go back a couple steps. So again, once you have window, this window area open up, for timeline, make sure it says create frame animation. Go ahead and click on it. You'll see one frame show up. What you want to make sure is go back over here and go up to make frames from layers. Click on that. And then you've got your animation here set. Okay, couple different things we want to make sure are going to happen. One is that on a Mac, well, we can just go ahead and look at it. And I can press my space bar, and it's going to play. I don't know, it's going to be a little bit different if you're working on a PC, but you should be able to see these toggle icons down below, and you should just be able to play and then stop the animation, and that's what you want. Now, also, make sure you double check, and again, this might be a little bit different on a PC, but you're going to see, hopefully, a little menu here. And what this means forever is that it's going to loop forever. It's just going to continue to loop, and that's what I want to make sure you guys have. Anytime you see the word loop, and or forever in this case, it just means that that animation is going to continually play. If I was just to set it to 3 times or once, it would only play that amount of times through and then stop. But we want this to kind of continuously loop. So that's what we've got here. Okay, so for forever, and we can see it. So that's pretty cool. All right. Okay, so now we're essentially done, but we want to save it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to File, and this is what you need to make sure you do. When you can just save it as a working project, and of course save it to your desktop. But if we're ready to save it and export it to the web or have it play on a website or anywhere else, we want to save it. We want to go to Export, drop down to Save for Web Legacy. Click on that, and you're going to get a new menu popping up. And it'll look a little bit different. Up here, make sure one that says GIF. And then since we're only using a minimal amount of colors, you can keep it at 32 dithered. All of these are going to affect how the final kind of resolution of it. And it's easy enough to save that I suggest you kind of experiment. So we don't have 128 colors, so it's not really necessary to necessarily keep it at this high rate. It'll just make the file bigger. So I'm just going to keep it at 32 dithered. I'm going to make sure this GIF. I'm not really going to worry about that. We'll keep it at, well, actually, let's do it to, let's see, perceptual. These amounts, really, for our purpose of this one, are not going to affect it a whole lot. What they do is they will inevitably affect the overall quality, which will make a difference, especially when we're using any kind of photographic material. For right now, and are keeping our animation simple, we're not going to worry about them too much. But I'm ready. I'm just going to go ahead and save it. So hit Save, Test GIF, Desktop. I'm going to save it. Close this down. And here it's saved to my desktop. And then finally, I want to go and I just want to open it up. So I'm going to open it up with Safari and make sure it works. And it does. So there you go. Pretty simple. Nice kind of flow as far as making a GIF. And so this is what I want you guys to do. You don't have to do the ball per se. You could actually do an animated person walking through the frame if you want, an animal or anything like that, but you don't have to make it too complex. Obviously, those of you that have a stylus or an iPad, you have a little bit of an upper hand when it comes to this, as opposed to anyone using a mouse or trackpad. And again, that's just kind of the situation we're in right now. No biggie. Have fun with this. If you have any questions, let me know, and I will continue to post some more about how to make GIFs from video and from still images. All right, thanks guys.